I think one of the events which are included in the story of this site is the sale of the site by Ubisoft. It means that this site was owned by Ubisoft. So it can be an objective site, but when you see that in some case they have too much praise for the game, which is not a good game, I have no precise examples, but in general, the significative element which shows us this difference is the difference between the official note of the site and the notes of people who comes on the site, you know?
Yep.
And sometimes there is a huge gap between these two notes, these two marks. Sorry, I have noticed the French word. Yes, this is very significative.
It's not really new because I know this type of thing has gone on at least as far back as Nintendo Power back in the day when it was really relevant before the internet, and they were the official magazine for Nintendo. So, of course, most of their games were going to get decent reviews. I mean, it was a surprise when somebody actually said, you know, this game had issues of this, that, and the other, and they would lower the rating a little bit. But even then, you know that they had to, otherwise the great games wouldn't have the better scores. So, it's not by any means just Nintendo. Just about everybody had their own official magazine. Xbox had one, PlayStation had one. I don't remember Sega ever having one. I think the major difference now is that reviewing is a much more open thing. There is so many sites out there that make a lot of their living doing this stuff. Some of them have even become famous for it. Ben Croshaw, the guy otherwise known as Yahtzee, has been rather famous for his very literate-heavy, tell-it-like-it-is review style, complete with odd little animations. And there's a whole bunch of other people out there just like him who have maybe had a bit of a past before, because he'd actually made a series of games before then, but he wasn't really well-known until he got into reviewing. But I don't think it can be said that Yahtzee ever got a lot of kickbacks. Because he never had much good to say about anything. So there is a lot of honest, true, good journalism out there. I think there's a lot of them who probably do actually take the kickbacks and still say what's on their mind. So it's by no means labeling the entire video game journalism as a bad thing that needs to be fixed. It's even because of all these controversies, there's a lot of these review websites that has revised their policies about how they review and how they advertise, because they see this as a problem. Because if you lose the trust of the people coming to your site, you have no site.
No, indeed. There is a kind of a limit when a site acquires a certain fame. When this fame overpasses this limit, the objectivity is more in danger, you know?
Oh, yes.
It's more the image of the site spread through the video game societies. They know your name, and then they will try, certainly in the shadow, in the darkness, to influence you. We can't really know what happened in the darkness, but we can have a supposition, you know. For example, you evoked EA Corporation, which received the second poop
yes,
of the US corporations. But however, some of their games, which was absolutely disgusting, received good marks. And here we have an example of this kind of non-objectivity.
And it's also been said that there's a lot of reviewers out there that only play like an hour, 3 hours of a particular game, and then write a review as if they played the whole game. I've heard that one too.
This is very odd, yeah, indeed.
It's not good practice.
No. But, you know, I heard that in some great journalistic sites, they received before the test of the game, and then they publish it. So they are not making their own test with their objectivity, but they received an official appearance of what have their test must have as appearance, you know. And and this is not honest, indeed. And furthermore, we don't say that journalistic reception of a game is not influencing the people, because of course the journalistic reception will have an absolute influence of the users, and the majority of users will look at a test before buying a game, and that shows the power of this reception. And if this journalistic reception have no objectivity, by extension the quality of the games will be more and more deteriorated. Why? Because the users will think that a bad game is a good game, and then the corporation like Nintendo, Sony, etc., the developers like Konami, I don't know why, whatever, but But these developers will be thinking that if a bad game is a good game, has become a good game, they have no particular efforts to do to make a game. They will make bad games because it will become a good game. You know what I mean?
As long as it looks good, as long as the reviews are good, and as long as it sells good, they don't have a problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know what you're talking about. So aside from that, it's another kind of off-topic thing, but I wanted to throw this out there because this happened last week, that Tomb Raider got a translation patch for the Japanese that they had to pay extra DLC for them. Does being in Europe, that there's so many countries rather close together, and they have so many different languages, I imagine it takes games a little longer for them to translate them to all the different languages and countries. Does it happen a lot of times that a game just won't get translated and just have like subtitles, whether it's a Japanese game or an American game?
It depends, in fact, because this is the volunteer of the developers. For example, Uncharted, which is a huge game with lots of special effects, and this is a movie, in fact. It is a video game movie, and this game has been entirely translated in French for me. In my case, because I am French. There is also Devil May Cry. There is no translation. It's staying in English. I think there is a Japanese version and an English version, but there is subtitles, and it depends. This is not a particular convention, but you know, the translation of a game can have a real impact of the quality of this game. And sometimes some games will not take the risk to make a translation if they are not sure that the translation will not be a good translation. You know, for example, if we take Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi series, you know, there is a Japanese version and an English version, and everybody can say that in my country, personally, everybody hates the English version. Why? I don't know. Maybe because it loses his original. I don't know.
When it comes to Japanese games, a lot of times the Japanese voice actors are just better at portraying the strange kookiness that they have in Japan, where when some other country does it, it sounds really childish and cartoonish. Yeah, but it sounds natural for the Japanese. I don't know why.
But you know, seiyus in Japan, who are the voice actors, are very, very popular, very, very famous, and this fame makes that they have some great charisma, you know? And this charisma, for example, I know that Frieza in Dragon Ball Z is my favorite character, and I know the seiyu, the Japanese voice actor called Ryusei Nakao, is also the voice actor of video game Dragon Ball Z editions, and it still have this charisma like in the manga. That's make the good aspect of the thing.
They often do try to keep the same voice actors from a show like that.
Yeah.
Because people usually notice it when it's not. We were talking about the Sega All-Stars racing game a while back, where the character from Wreck-It Ralph has a completely different voice from the movie in the game. And
it's strange, though.
It just doesn't feel right. I mean, it doesn't even sound like somebody trying to sound like him. It just sounds completely different. I mean, it's like watching Mickey Mouse try to sound like Popeye. I don't know. Okay, it's not that bad.
But I have in the name Charles Martinet.
And for those who don't know him, he is the voice of some of the most beloved Nintendo characters of all time. Mario, Luigi, Waluigi,
etc.
And he's played several other characters too.
Yeah, 20 years approximately.
Pretty much the original voice.
And but I recently learned that he also made the voice of Paarthurnax on Skyrim. You know, the dragon.
Yep.
And it's very strange to imagine a man which start from a Brooklyn voice, a plumber for Brooklyn voice actor to dragon voice acting. But the skill of this man, the talent, this is a man, for example, that we can't change through the countries, through the world, because he has his unique voice with his unique charisma, you know?
And Mario and Luigi aren't really characters that say a lot, so I think that's one of the reasons why that's not such a big deal. You get used to their little, what would you call them, taglines?
But there is some, there is some, if we start to change the voice of Mario, Luigi, it will have a few impacts, I think.
We're going to have a show on voice actors one of these days. There's so many great voice actors out there. So any major releases coming up soon that you're really excited about?
the next remake of Zelda Wind Waker, which was my eternal favorite game. Yes, indeed, I'm sure that they will make a great thing with it, but this game is a game which can't grow old, you know? It stays eternally young.
It's got a great art style. Even if a lot of people hated it at first, I think they've grown to like it.
Yes. Because when you see some image of the game, some videos of you saying yourself that it's not possible that the game can be as old as it, you know?
Yeah.
This is incredible. The graphism aspects are not growing old. They're still beautiful. Mm-hmm. The gameplay is always also elaborated also. The dynamism of the game is amazing, and the life of the game is huge. I spent more over 100 hours. Oh yes, because I didn't use the tricks to finish directly the game. Mm-hmm. I explored a lot. I
wanted to find everything.
Just the fact to be in a location in these games have his interests, you know. It's not a game that like Uncharted 3. It's a great game, but there is not this.
There's not a lot of exploration.
No, and this is always action. There are not time to explore, to enjoy the graphics, the landscape, etc. This is always effervescent, you know. And I think that Eiji Aonuma, the game creator of the Legend of Zelda, said that he wanted to change the convention of the game. I think it would be a great remake.
And it's almost full circle to one of our first conversations that here's this game that's as old as it is. I mean, it's getting this remake. It's going to get a little prettier, but it still looks as good now as it did then. And once again, it's because of the cartoonish look. Twilight Princess is not going to look that great much longer.
No, indeed.
Because they went for the realistic style. And it's not what they wanted. They wanted to make a game that was more of the Wind Waker, but everybody got upset because of the whole cartoony thing, so they tried to get more realistic, and it pleased a lot of people, but it's just not going to have as timeless of life as Wind Waker.
Absolutely, yes.
I really like Wind Waker.
It's to make people dream again, you know, to show that Nintendo stay Nintendo, and even if there is no realistic graphisms like Uncharted, Arkham City, Batman, this is the world which makes us grow, you know.
It's what Nintendo does very well. Do you guys know if they were adding anything to it, or if it's a straight up remake?
I don't know.
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I haven't heard.
Kind of like how they added a few things for the re-release of Ocarina of Time.
Oh, we will see.
But we are getting close on time, so I'll go ahead and get us closed out here. If anybody out there would want to read more about the whole conversation that we had about the issues going on with video game journalism and reviews, there's actually a really good article about some of the stuff on Kotaku by Stephen Trujillo. Talks quite a bit about more than one side of the topic, and it's a good read for anybody that would want to know more about the whole situation. Not to mention the Rab Florence, his own article, which he was fired for. So whether you read the original or the edited, it's still both good stories, and both should be easy enough to find. They're almost always the top of the list in Google searches. So, you can catch us on Twitter at PrinnyCast, and our email is prinnycast@gmail.com. Anywhere that you want to promote real quick, Alexander?
You can go to, if you have some French notion, some of, you can go to Nintendo Master. It's a good site, but there is no particular, we try to reproduce the actuality in French, you know. We are taking the information from different US sites or Japanese sites that we try to make a synthesis of it, and there's no particular site that I can propose to you. So, for example, the TGS, if one day you wanted to come to France and have an adventure in an event, video game convention, you can go to the Toulouse Game Show site, and that's all.
And we'll link all that in the description for everybody. And it sounds like you guys have a pretty good show every single year. So I guess that's everything for this week. Join us every Monday for the next PrinnyCast. Well, I don't know how long we'll be on this whole 4-part, 15-minute thing. But I guess thanks for coming along, Alexander. I hope we can have you back sometime.
Thanks to you. Thank you very much.
And, thanks for putting up with us Americans.
Yeah.
And we'll see the rest of you next week.
Goodbye.
See you next time.